Hey guys, welcome to Daniel and Gian Talk, and finally, a lot of you guys have been waiting for me to review this film. I watched it in December. It's actually one of my top 10 movies of the year of 2019. That video will be coming out soon. Stay tuned. I know it's 2020 already, but I decided to take a little bit more time as opposed to just throwing it together because I really wanted to delve deep into what that meant to me. Hey guys, welcome to Daniel Gian Talk, and today is the day. Finally, I am reviewing Kaithi. Not sure how to pronounce it. Please let me know in the comments. I actually really want to try to learn these pronunciations better and actually really learn as opposed to just pretending like I know what I'm doing, because I don't. So help me out here. But anyway, the film is directed by Lokesh Kanagaraj, stars Kaithi in the lead role. So I'm going to break this review into 3 parts, guys. We're going to talk character, we're going to talk story, and we're going to talk action, and then I'm going to summarize it at the end, giving my final thoughts about the film as a whole. But let's just jump right into character. First things first, the number one thing that I loved the most about this movie is the hero is flawed. Not only is he flawed, he's also a reluctant hero. This is a by-the-books hero's journey, and it works, and it works really well, and that's the thing that I just love. I love the fact that he starts off as this guy who really doesn't care about what's going on. He just wants to see his daughter. I mean, that's as primal as it gets. You can relate to it. You understand. Even if you're not a parent like myself, I am not. I am a child. I know my dad, so I know how he felt about me. So even I can just put myself in these situations, and because it's so bare bones, it's very easy to attach to. It's not just his reluctance that I liked, because as I said, that's sort of what your basic cookie cutter plot line will be. You have a hero who doesn't want to be a hero, and then he becomes the hero. What's different here is his checkered past. Most people would look at someone like this and call him a bad person because he did serve his time, he did go to jail. And that's a big deal for a lot of people. At least here in the States, I can't speak for India, but here in the States, you definitely carry a stigma around you if you've been to jail. I really did enjoy that he was basically someone who's tried to put his life back together so he can just see his damn daughter. He's never met her because he was in jail. I mean, that is such a touching and relatable story, and that's just the starting point. And then by the end, he becomes this selfless individual who does actually care for the conflict and the people involved. And it's rewarding. It's very rewarding. It's an action film, so it's rewarding in an action way. But it wasn't just Kaithi's performance. It was pretty much everybody else as well. The villains were believable. Now, a gripe I would have is that I didn't get to see as much of them as I wanted to, because pretty much every time they were on the screen, they stole the show. And I liked that. I dug that. I wanted more of that. But I do have to say that you pretty much get established that these guys are bad from the beginning, but you also get thrust into the plot real quick. You kind of really don't even know what's going on yet, but you know shit's about to go down, and it's because of the villain. And the reason why is because you believe in the acting, you believe in the context of what's going on, and you believe in the reactions of the people around the villain reacting to what he's doing. And that's so crucial, that's so important. Yes, it's a movie. I'm not saying it's hyper realistic and this is how people actually are. I'm just saying that this is a movie and we need to embrace that, and this film does so. It embraces that element. It's very heightened, but yet because of the combination of the elements I just mentioned, you're able to accept this, you're able to digest this easy, and as a result, the film is just more enjoyable. But it's not just the villains, it's also the side characters, the B characters, the kids in the police station. At first you're kind of like, why are we seeing these people? It's not that interesting, but by the end it pays off, and then by the end, and I'm just gonna say, if you didn't know this by now, this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't watched it, pause this, watch the movie, come back and continue. But you even care when one of the kids dies at the end, or at least I did. I genuinely cared because of the performances, of the reactions of the people around them. As I just mentioned, for the villains, it works for these side characters as well as the cop. You know, this serious cop on the first day of his job, and he's the only one in the precinct, and he has to hold it down, and he has his hero moment too. And so it's literally all of these different characters. They stand up for themselves. They're not just passive individuals. They actually make choices, and as a result, it's just a good movie. They wrote the villain scenes to be as villainous as they possibly could, even though I feel like there should have been more. Even though they weren't always on screen, but they were always menacing. You always felt their presence. And because these henchmen were kind of badasses as well, it just continued to build that tension until finally, ooh. And that's something that I enjoyed a lot about the story of this movie. You didn't really have any extra baggage. The film is fairly short by Indian standards, and not only that, there really isn't any extra BS. Now, no extra love stories or no forced romances, and I'm not saying that those are bad. I like a love story like everyone else does. Even people pretend that they don't love love stories. They'll like some love stories. It just has to be the type that they enjoy. Like, people who don't like love stories, they like Knocked Up, like Gian. And Knocked Up is pretty much a love story. 40-Year-Old Virgin, pretty much a love story. And I know, and fucking Superbad. These movies are love stories by way of being a comedy. But back to this movie, I just really enjoyed that it was kind of just this. It wasn't going to be that or boom boom. It wasn't going to be all of these different types of movies. It was just going to be this one action thriller, and it stuck to it, and I really appreciate that. And because it knew it was an action thriller, the cinematography had to be on point, and it was, because you have to sell all of these fight scenes, and the camera work is great. I mean, the whole chase scene with the cars and the motorcycles and stuff, I enjoyed it. Obviously, some parts looked like CGI, but I could be completely wrong. It could just be what I was watching, because I believe that most of it looked to be practical, and I love practical stunts. That's one of the best things about Indian cinema that I really fucking love, is that a lot of practical shit still goes on. You guys haven't been bastardized completely by Hollywood where it's CGI fest, because to be honest, the budget's just not there. And so when I watch these stunts, I like it. That's not to say movies like War don't have obvious, clear as frickin' day CGI effects, because it's really starting to creep in. 2.0. I mean, Bahubali. I mean, you're really starting to ham up these CGI effects to Hollywood levels, but there's still these films like this that are being made in India where it is practical, and I enjoy it. I could be completely wrong, and if that's the case, even more hats off, because I was convinced that it was real. But the lighting helped tell a story. It was moody, it was dark. You always felt, ooh, like something was gonna go wrong. The tension, the shadows, really, really spot on, the cinematography, especially for this type of movie. The whole team who made this production, hats off to all of you. I mean, you guys literally just got thrown into the blender and just ground up to make this one great fucking shake. And I drank that shit up because it was great. It was great, great, great. This movie was a total shock and surprise to me. I'm not going to lie. One of the best parts of the movie was the plant and payoff of the minigun. And for those of you who are new to this channel and maybe never watched a review of mine, and you might be asking, what's a plant and payoff? I'll give you an example in this film so you'll better understand what I'm talking about. But the broad definition is, it's when you write something into the story very early on and you forget about it for the rest of the movie until one specific moment when you call upon that same exact, whatever that scenario you wrote, you call back to it and you revisit it. And then when you do it at the very end or close to the end of the story, you as an audience member go, oh my God, I remember that thing. Oh, and you have this moment where you pay off the plant, hence plant and payoff. So in this movie, the plant and payoff is the minigun, because they do talk about the minigun being confiscated at the beginning of the movie, and I remember catching that and I was like, oh, that's a very peculiar thing. But to be honest, I didn't look at that scene as out of the ordinary, because I watched this movie a few weeks after El Chapo Jr. was captured by the Mexican federales. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, bear with me 1 second, I'm gonna explain it. It's pretty cool, actually. It's kind of scary, actually. The Mexican government decided, we're going to capture El Chapo Jr., the son of the Mexican cartel. They captured El Chapo Jr., and then, since El Chapo Jr. is El Chapo Jr., the Mexican cartel pretty much invaded the city and forced the police to return El Chapo Jr. back to the cartel. And they did, because they started blowing up cars, they started shooting people, shooting up places, I mean. They basically took over the city in force. And on Twitter, if you don't follow me on Twitter, you should, because I was retweeting things like this. You can just see the amount of guns and ammunition and things that the Mexican cartel has, and it's crazy. So in this movie, when they mentioned the minigun, I didn't roll my eyes. I was like, oh, okay, he's this type of gang dealer. And then at the end, when he goes into they go underground and the cop opens up the box, I was like, I know it's the minigun, it's the minigun. And you don't know yet. You don't know until he walks out and he pulls it and you see it. And I was like, oh, I was so freaking hyped at that end. It sealed the deal as to how good this movie is. I really hope that Gian watches it so we can talk about it together, because it genuinely sweetened the pot. That minigun moment, him just mowing down all those gangsters, I don't care how over the top it might have been to some people. To me, it was awesome. I enjoyed it. It actually made me regret not watching this movie in the theater, but then I realized I can't really be in regret because it never actually played here, which is unfortunate and it sucks. That is unfortunate. I hope to someday maybe have that movie play here somehow. Maybe this channel will grow big enough to where I can actually host little screenings for people who live in the LA area, and maybe we can screen it together, and we can all meet up and have like a movie club. I don't know. If there's anybody out there in LA who would like say, hey, you want to go watch some movies or whatever, let's do it. But that's neither here nor there. My absolute favorite thing about this movie, the hero doesn't do anything for the first hour. Oh my God, the amount of restraint this movie had for that first hour. Oh man, I was pumped and I was with it and I was excited, because you just knew that this guy had this dark past, but he wouldn't do anything. He was very, very straightforward. Nope, daughter, daughter, daughter. And then the situation got real and he came out and he was like, you motherfuckers. And it went down. And so as a result of that long ass time of not seeing him fight, because if it was pretty much any other Tamil cinema movie that I see on this level, that would have happened within the first 5 minutes, 15 minutes. It would have happened within the first 15 minutes of our hero beating ass. But no, this movie waited an hour. That is so good. You know what other movies are great that also did things like this? Jaws. I mean, that's literally what the whole point of Jaws is. And that movie still works to this day. Why? Because you don't see it very often. And that's the thing. This hero isn't kicking ass for 2.5 hours. He's really only kicking ass for the last 45 minutes. And even that, he still gets his ass whipped. You just believe it. You just believe it. That's all I'm saying. It just makes it more engaging as an audience member, and I really, really enjoyed it. I pretty much talked a lot about action throughout the review, specifically the main scenes that I enjoyed. The minigun scene, the car chase scene along the highway. I enjoyed some of the night fights amongst the different like Indian gangs. There's that one section where they have like something burning and blocking the road or something like that. That was a cool sequence. I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the kids fighting the main dude. Like, you wouldn't expect that to happen, but it did happen, and I enjoyed it just because why not? Why not have this film just be exciting from beginning to end? Who cares sometimes? And I was just fully engaged with the movie. This movie did not hold your hand at any point, and I really applaud that, because like I said, restraining not having your action hero be an action hero for a whole hour is really letting the audience be smart and to engage and to actually be involved in the story. It's a strong and bold choice. I wish that some filmmakers would experiment like this more often, just because it works. When you do it, it just works. If you can build that story for that hour, you can do your job and let that food simmer and just slowly reach that boiling temperature. When it gets there and the water starts boiling, if you put all your puzzle pieces together, you will make a beautiful picture, and that's what this is. And that's what it is. It's exciting, good, fun. And I really want a sequel. The film kind of sets up the angle for a potential sequel. I don't know what the story would be, but I just want to see more, because I like the universe that was created here. I just did. Hats off. To me, one of the best Indian movies of 2019. And I appreciate to all those who recommended that I watched it. And I'm so glad I took the chance on this movie. But what did you guys think? Tell me what your favorite scenes were, what your favorite moments were, what were your impressions of the minigun, what were your impressions of the car chase scene, the cinematography, the acting. Do you recommend any other movies by these people? Let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Let's start this year off well. Let's make 2020 the year of Daniel and Gian. We'll see you.